So, hello there.
Mangia, courageous cooking in a crowd kitchen.
I don't know about you, but I am getting a little bonkers being stuck inside in winter during a pandemic. But I have a project. I'm gonna make stromboli. Now, stromboli is a stuffed pizza. So it starts with pizza dough, which you can get from your supermarket or from your local pizzeria, but I love making my own dough and I'm gonna show you how to do it. And the fun thing about making it yourself and making a stromboli is you could stuff it with anything you like. So I'm gonna do a classic vegetable one, but I'm also gonna make a stromboli Reuben. Sounds crazy, but I think it's gonna be really tasty. Homemade dough is really simple to make. All it is water with some honey, yeast, flour, and salt. So the first thing you do is you bloom your yeast in a little warm water, well, about 1.33 cups of warm water and a tablespoon of honey. Now you want the water just about 90 degrees, which to your fingers feels just a little warm, but not hot and not cold, just warm. We're gonna bloom that yeast. Blooming means it's coming back to life. The yeast is perking up in our warm water and honey. It's been about a minute, it's getting foamy. That means it's alive and happy. So now we're ready to mix it all together with flour and salt. I like to use a mixture of whole wheat flour and bread flour. You can use whatever mixture you like. You can use all-purpose flour if you don't have bread flour. Bread flour, though, has the highest protein content, which is good for making crusts and doughs. All right, we just want them to get happy together. We do a hand mix first. If you don't have a KitchenAid, you're gonna mix it all by hand, which means you're gonna knead it on a well-floured board for about 10 minutes. I'm gonna knead it in my handy-dandy KitchenAid for about 4 to 5 minutes. Now, I set aside 1/2 cup of flour to mix in while I'm kneading the dough. If you're kneading it on the board, you're gonna use this 1/2 cup of flour on your board. So the dough goes from being sticky to being stretchy. Right now it's still very, very sticky. So we're gonna knead it some more, add more flour. All right, I added a little more flour and then the dough is ready to receive. So it's taking a little longer for it to incorporate, but that's okay. It will. Trust it. All right, so I'm gonna do the last part of this kneading on my board so I can show everyone who doesn't have a stand mixer how to knead dough. So again, this is part of my set aside flour. Generously flour. Ooh, look, it's looking good already. See, it's getting stretchy now. So you just push with your heel of your hand. And it's kind of fun. This is the fun part. This is where if you got a house full of kids that need something fun to do, wash their hands before they touch the dough. And then let them beat that dough. And see how it's coming together in a nice, it's not sticking to my hands anymore. And then what we're looking for when we're kneading the dough is what's called a window pane, which basically you take a piece of the dough and bigger piece of the dough, and you stretch it to see if it holds together and forms kind of a window pane. Now, because I put whole wheat flour in this, it's a little longer to knead, and it doesn't quite do the clear pane, so to speak, that you get from just white flour. But oh man, it's just feeling good already. She's ready to rest and grow. See, and I didn't even use all the extra flour, which is why you hold off some flour. I'm gonna put her in a lightly oiled bowl. This is olive oil, because pizza loves olive oil. But the wonderful thing about this dough is it can make pizza, it can make stromboli, it can make calzone. Cover, rest for 90 minutes. Wait till you see how big she gets. Now, we are going to divide and pre-shape this dough. Now, I have a scale, so I'm gonna use my scale to sort of divide it evenly into 3s, but you can just eyeball it. Now that my dough has been equally divided, we're gonna do what's called a pre-shape. If you're making pizza, you wanna pre-shape it into a ball. If you're doing stromboli, which I am, you might wanna pre-shape it into a log. I'm gonna cover this up. They're gonna rise again for about another 90 minutes. While your doughs are having their second rise, this is the time to prepare all your fillings. Now I'm gonna make a veggie stromboli, so I'm gonna saute my veg. But if you're making a sausage stromboli or a meatball stromboli, now's the time to cook those fillings. You don't wanna put raw filling into the stromboli because they don't really, like meats need to be pre-cooked. Anywho, I've got a nice medium heat and I am going to saute onions. When you saute onions, you want to sweat them, and somebody once asked me, what does that mean? It literally means that they sweat. They release their fluids and their flavors concentrate. So I'm gonna sweat these probably 3 to 5 minutes-ish. Look at those onions, they've sweat. They went to the gym and worked out. Now what I do is I just push them to the side so that they don't burn, and I'll throw my mushrooms in. Now mushrooms are like sponges, and so you don't want to wash them with water, you just want to wipe the dirt off of them. And when you saute them, you just sort of let them sit in the pan, and they also sweat. Oh, it's starting to smell good. Now I'm gonna put the mushrooms and the onions together. Garlic goes in towards the end because garlic burns very easily. I also have some red pepper flakes because I like it spicy. We're gonna add this spinach. This looks like a ton of spinach, but it's gonna shrink down like nobody's business. This is about 6 ounces of spinach. Just throw it right on top. And just for good measure, I'm gonna give it a little pinch of salt. Cook this until the spinach wilts. And then I'm gonna let it cool because I'm also gonna add some feta cheese to this just because, you know, more cheese is good. Look how big and puffy my dough has gotten. It's time to build some stromboli. Now, I'm only gonna make 2, so I'm gonna take this extra dough and I'm gonna put it in the fridge for another time. It stays good in the fridge for about a week. You can also freeze it if you want, and it stays even longer in the freezer. You can make pizza with it, you can make garlic knots, you can make calzone. You don't have to use it all today. Into the bag and into the fridge. It's time to construct our stromboli. Now I have a pizza peel with cornmeal on it. If you don't have a pizza peel, you can just use a baking sheet that's lightly oiled, or if you have parchment paper, put parchment paper on it. If you don't have cornmeal, you can use semolina or just flour, but you need something to keep the stromboli, once it's built, from sticking. Also, don't build your stromboli on the counter and then move it because it doesn't work. You gotta build it on your vessel. So, oh, look at these beautiful doughs. They're stretchy. I'm gonna flour my hands. And basically, I wanna get this into a nice, long, rectangular shape. And like pizza dough, you can just stretch it. Stretch your coffee break, top it off with juice frickum. Who remembers that? All right, as I'm stretching it, I'm gonna lay it on the peel, keep stretching it. I am building my spinach stromboli, vegetarian, and I have a tomato issue, so I can't eat tomato sauce, so I made ricotta with pesto sauce mixed in. Now, one of the other things about making a stromboli or a calzone is you want to use your liquid fillings cautiously, not too much, because you don't want it to be too wet. It'll make a soggy stromboli. Nobody likes a soggy stromboli. I gotta add some feta to my spinach. You know what? I'm just gonna use my hands because, for goodness sakes, they're all over my food. Build that up in a beautiful layer. And you don't want to go all the way out to the edge because you want to be able to use that edge to pinch and seal the stromboli closed. And then, just because more cheese, mozzarella. So this is like a 3-cheese spinach stromboli. Make sure that you've got your oven heated to 500 degrees or as hot as it can go for about a half an hour before you want to bake, because when this hits the oven, it puffs up. Oop, I just heard my oven. We fold it over, take a little bit of water, and just damp the edge just a little bit so that you can seal it closed. Do that over there. Pull and pinch. I'm sure there's some wonderful Italian nonna who does this perfectly. She is all ready to go into a very hot oven. I'm putting mine on a pizza stone. Oven's 500 degrees. And it bakes for about 15 to 20 minutes. We're gonna check it in about 15. 1 stromboli in. Now it's time to build the second stromboli. Cut. I'm gonna start with my layer of Swiss cheese, and the cheese is going to adhere to the dough while it's baking and just be, I can't wait. The next layer is Russian dressing. I made my own Russian dressing, and it's ketchup, mayonnaise, and relish, and then I added hot sauce. Now, I'm gonna add a decent amount of this dressing, but not too much. Again, you don't want it to get a soggy bottom. Nobody likes a soggy bottom. Then I'm gonna layer on, this is not pastrami, it's corned beef. I get the two confused, but pastrami's saltier. Corned beef is not as salty. And you can put in as much or as little as you like. I've got about a half a pound here, and since this stromboli should feed 4 people, a half a pound, yeah, that's about right. The next layer is sauerkraut. Now, sauerkraut is very wet, so you want to drain it and get as much of the liquid out as you can so that it doesn't make a soggy stromboli. How much sauerkraut? I don't know. How much do you like? More cheese on top, another layer. Now let's see if this dough will stretch on top of it. Fingers crossed. I've got a dog staring at me. He's staring at me. He's like, Mama, corned beef, please. Because Reuben is usually made on rye bread, I had an idea to I'm gonna spray it with water, just a little bit, so that I can sprinkle some caraway seeds on top. And that'll give it that little bit of a rye bread-ish kind of feel. This is also gonna go into the oven for 15 to 20 minutes. Another dog's barking. Everybody wants corned beef. My veggie stromboli has been in there for like 11 or 12 minutes, and honestly, I think it might be done. So let's, ooh, look how gorgeous and brown. We're gonna let it cool before we cut into it. Not cool completely, but you know, pizza palette. She smells the corned beef. Look at that beautiful Reuben Stromboli. This one is probably cool enough to cut into, so let's cut into it right now. Take a look at how, the wonderful thing about stromboli, so you can just pick it up. The spinach, and the cheese, and the pesto, and the mushrooms. Now, what I love about this is you can serve it with extra Russian dressing on the side. You could serve it with tomato sauce on the side, whatever you like. Wow, oh my. I'm gonna get pizza palette, aren't I? I don't care. I just made something I've never made before. Reuben Stromboli. And it is awesome. So get yourself in the kitchen with your kids, with your dough. Whether you make your own dough or buy the dough already made, make a stromboli. It warm your heart and your belly.
Mangia, courageous cooking in a crowd kitchen.